In the last section, we were able to verify that we successfully built a character map to represent our string. Now it's up to us to somehow iterate through this character map and find the character that was used most frequently in a given string. So taking care of this is going to be very much like iterating through an object. We're going to iterate through it, and we're going to try to find the value that has been used most frequently. Now there's several different ways to iterate through an object like this and find the max value, but we're going to take a very direct, straightforward approach. So we're going to start off by declaring two helper variables at the top of the function. We'll say let max and set that equal to 0, and then let max char and set that to an empty string. So we're going to iterate through the character map. If we ever find a character that has more uses than max, then we'll set max equal to that new value, and we'll set max char to the character that was responsible for that number of uses. So in other words, the first time we iterate through, say, this hello world object right here, we would look at the key value pair of h and 1. Now 1 is greater than the initial variable of max, so we would say, oh, this must be a new maximum that we found. So we would set max to 1, and then max char would be set to the key at that location, which is h. We would then go on to the next value. This one is 3, so we would set 3 equal to max, and then max char would be updated to e, because that is the new maximum character. So in practice, really not the worst thing in the world. Let's give this a shot. So I'm going to go down to the console log at the bottom, and we will replace this with a new loop to iterate through our character map. So we'll say for let char, and now here's something that's going to kind of blow your mind. Notice how in the past we've been talking about that for of loop. So the for of loop is used for iterating through an array or a string or any type of iterable object. But in this case, we are iterating through an actual object, like a collection of key value pairs. So to iterate through this object or any type of JavaScript object as opposed to an array or a string, we instead use a slightly different kind of loop. So in this case, we use a loop that uses the for in syntax as opposed to for of. The way that I remember the difference between the two of these, I just remember that object starts with O, and ironically, they chose not to use of, or starting with O, to iterate through an object. So I remember object starts with O. We do not use the for of, which begins with O, to iterate over an object. Instead, we use for in. So that's how I remember it personally. So we'll look at each character for char map. Then if the char map at this particular character is greater than our max, we're going to update both the max number and the max character. So max will become char map at char, and max char will become char. So as you can guess right now, when we iterate with a for in loop, char right here is assigned the keys inside that object. So this is not the values, it is the key. So char will be the different letters that we have added to our object. Now after we run this loop, we should then know which character is the greatest number of uses. It will be assigned to max char, which means at the very end, all we have to do is return max char, like so. All right, let's see how our tests are doing. And it looks like they're all passing. Terrific. Okay, so like I said, using this kind of character map setup right here can be used to solve many different types of string-related questions, and I really recommend you keep this technique close at hand whenever you are in an interview where they ask you anything about strings. It can be used in so many different locations. So hopefully this has been helpful. Let's continue in the next section and continue working. So quick break, and I'll see you in just a minute.